Is that we're live? That's always good. We are trying all the different locations in my home here to turn into a studio. We tried upstairs. You've seen some of the space involving the instruments and the computer. You've seen the kitchen because we tried yesterday with a little cooking show. And we're back again today with a little bit of a fitness program. We're going to try something slightly out of my element. I've coached before, but never in a kind of recorded setting. And today we're going to do a little bit of fitness stuff together. But again, I'm just going to hop on over and get myself kind of situated here. The first time working in this space. So my phone's actually over here, my other device, to see what I'm doing. And hopefully it works this time, because yesterday I just had such a difficult um, time seeing what I was doing, basically. But it seems to be going. I think I'm there. Bumblebee, how's the audio? Let me know how the audio is. But there it is. I think I can mute this now. Oh, maybe it's taking over the it's taking over the audio here for the background music. Is there a way for me to do this without to see the chat? I guess not, right? Like if I exit the YouTube here, can I mute this audio? Question mark. Hey viewers, how's it going? I'm going to be right back. Just trying to figure out this sound stuff here. See if there's a way for me to turn off the audio. Probably not. That's okay. Let's just go back to playing some tunes on the speaker there. I think we prefer hearing tunes. And I'll come back every now and then and check in on the chat and see how we're doing. If my volume is good, then that's fantastic. Same thing with the camera. If the setting is correct, then we should be able to see this punching bag and what's happening to it as we're going through today's little workout. So the first thing to keep in mind, I guess, before you kind of dive into any form of physical activity, is that you've got all the materials there, you're ready. I always recommend having some water on hand, but also doing a quick little assessment, do a quick little check, make sure you're not wearing any loose jewelry, stuff that you can take off. So I'm going to be removing a few kind of, removable jewelry here and putting that off to the side. Now, the next thing, especially when you're trying to get into combat sports and striking and that sort of stuff, it's very tempting for you just to have an object and just to want to just, go right into it, just refit, put everything you've got into it. But I think it's really, really important for you first to take care of, again, your materials, right? If your hands, if you think of them as kind of like as the bullets that your gun, your entire body is firing, you got to make sure to protect each element, each step of the way. And I think there's no greater loss to progress than injury, right? If you get injured, you're going to be, taking time off to recover, and during that time, whatever gains you've made, you'll probably have to be playing catch up, right? Once your recovery period is done. So, right, safety is key. Being prepared is very key. And next up, we'll go into materials. We've got hand wraps over here. So these are the ones that I like to use now because I'm at that age where I just like things to kind of just work, right? I'm a little bit lazier. But you'll notice that with these kind of wraps, you've got the padding that's built in, right? Everything's all set up. It's basically a glove. Think of it as a giant sock. You just slide your hand into it, you burn off the wraps, and then you're all set to go. But maybe part of today's program, stretching this out, also involves showing you the more traditional style of hand wrapping. So I've also got that over here off on the side. So this is a more traditional hand wrap. You'll notice that it's quite long. We got quite a bit of material to work with here. And I don't know, maybe this puts me in frame a little bit better right beside the punching bag there. But usually with these wraps, you'll see something that says like this side up. That's usually a good kind of point to start, right? So look for this side up. And once you see the thumb loop, make sure the thumb loop is on the outside. So I've got some non-removable jewelry here, right? But make sure that the thumb loop Okay, so again, with this side up, sits on the outside, on the back of your palm. And the reason why you want that and not this way is if it's sitting the other way, your thumb bends down, your wrap falls off. On the other hand, if you did it correctly, right, the wrap falls behind your hand, that's good, right? The wrap stays on, especially when your fist is closed up, right? You want your wraps to stay on. So yeah, let's run through this quickly here. There's a better instructional video that I've actually put together for the boxing club at the school where I used to work. But just to kind of quickly kind of run through, this is the way that I like to do hand wraps. There's a lot of different styles. I usually go 3 around the wrist. Okay, this is just a personal preference kind of thing. Different disciplines. So, for example, boxers versus Muay Thai boxers or kickboxers versus Dutch style kickboxers, right? Everyone's got a slightly different style, different way of doing this stuff. So 3 wrist, 3 palm. Okay, so we got 3 wrist, 3 palm. I'm coming a little closer here to the camera. I still can't see the chat, so I'm just hoping this works. And then from this point forward, this is where it gets a little confusing, but I call it crisscross applesauce. So it's a little makes more sense if you just kind of keep your hand in the frame. So don't move your hand here, but instead just move the wrap. The wrap first goes behind the hand, not in front, but behind the hand, and it goes behind the wrist. All right. And as the wrap drops back in front, it's going to go in that webbing, right, in between your ring finger and your pinky. And again, once that wrap comes through to the other side, you take a moment to just kind of envision what's happening over here, right? You want to drape this back over to the front, okay? Drape it back to the front so that the wrap can again fall behind the hand. Now again, let's look at it from the same side as before, right? The wrap is behind the hand. It's going to go around the wrist. Same thing as last time, but this time it's going to go between the middle finger and the ring finger. Again, just going for that webbing there, right? Because the whole idea is for us to separate the fingers, but not have them collapse on each other. Okay, and again, just to show you from the other side here, the wrap is behind the hand, and not in front, but behind the hand. Goes back from the wrist. You've seen this happen before, right? But this time it's going to go to the very first, in between your index and your middle finger. And at this point, the wrap drops one last time behind your hand. You should be able to see now that your fingers are now properly separated. Okay, that's what you want to see. You can also do this around the thumb as well. Okay, so it just takes a few times to kind of figure this out before you get a little bit more comfortable, right, with wrapping your hands there. And the rest of the way, it's just a matter of burning off the hand wrap. Like if you feel the need to put a little bit more around the knuckle here, then by all means. I like to provide a little bit more support around the wrist. Right, there you go. And if you just kind of peel back, okay, this hand wrap area here, what you're looking for, and hopefully this is nicely within frame, is that your fingers are nicely scaffolded. I guess that's the word, right? They're stacked, they're separated, but you've also got all this extra padding here protecting you. Okay, so that's basically how it works. I'll take a moment here and check the chat, see what's popping. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Always good to see some thumbs up there. Let's see here, live chat. I see yes by Bumblebee. Okay, I'll take that as a sign. I think that is good. All right, so anyway, let's keep going. We've got one hand wrap now. Okay, I think for simplicity, we'll keep this hand here using the traditional hand wrap. And on the other side, not that this is like, you know, the cheating way of doing it, but I like the simplicity of it, right? Everything's built in. There's a little bit of padding here. Here I had to improvise my padding, right? But I'm just going to slide it in just like that. My fingers are already nicely separated. Okay. And again, we're just looking for where the Velcro is, this side up. And we can already start burning off this wrap. So pretty straightforward. Now I'm kind of a flashy guy, so it makes sense, right? I got a lot of colors here. But let's kind of run through the basics. And I wish that the camera had more space so I could illustrate the footwork. Footwork's really key when it comes to striking and combat sports. But for this time, I guess for this stream here, we'll focus on top body. Or the things that we want to keep in mind is first identifying which is our lead foot, because our lead foot determines which hand is our jab. Okay, now again, we're looking at a traditional kind of boxing setup here, right? Again, to assess which foot is your lead foot, the simulation that I like to encourage students to think about is imagine something's coming down on you. How are you bracing for it to come down? Or if you're pushing up against something, which foot is in front? Okay, and for me, it's my left foot. So that makes me an orthodox, okay, or traditional left foot forward fighter. If you find that your right foot forward makes a little bit more sense, that's in combat sports known as southpaw, so right foot forward. And that also correlates to a goofy skateboard, snowboarding, board sports style. Okay, and I think this was popularized by Goofy, the Disney character, when he was first riding a surfboard, right foot forward, and Goofy has a way of being goofy as per Walt Disney lore. So anyway, there you have it. Once you've identified which foot leads, whether you are orthodox left foot forward or your southpaw right foot forward, you want to identify your range. Okay, so in this case here, I'm simulating being a southpaw fighter. I'm not a southpaw fighter, but imagine I'm doing this for the first time. It's day one here. I just want to assess how far my jab, this is going to be my right hand because my right foot is forward, right? How far it's going to be for me to reach my target. I do the exact same thing if it's left foot forward, right? Again, left foot forward here, orthodox fighter. How far do I need to go in order to snap that jab and then be able to come back to a position where I'm safe? Because usually the idea is if two fighters are matched, say for example, they're the same height, same build, same everything, well, if one fighter is within reach, that means you're also within reach of being, like if you're within reach of dealing damage, you're also within reach of receiving, taking damage as well. Okay, so again, identify first, right, how far, what that distance needs to be. Watch your footing. Okay, try to make it a habit to step every single time you throw a punch. And maybe the first little drill here. Now just do this again, southpaw here. So again, right foot forward, right? I'm just getting into that habit of jabbing. And keep in mind when you're closing your hands too, right? Again, your fingers close first and your thumbs go afterwards. Never your thumbs, then your fingers. Okay, this is a one-way trip to a broken thumb. No bueno. So again, fingers close first and thumbs afterwards, okay? If you're not quite certain, if you don't have hand wraps, if you're just doing this at home, you might just even want to slap or just kind of open palm it, right? So just get set into a sense of, all right, this is my lead foot, this is my lead hand. That contact is going to be the jab, right? So just go into that habit, all right, 5, 4, 3, a small step each time, and don't rush, take your time to it. Okay, we're going to do 5 more of these nice and slowly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, you want a full extension there on the jab. But if you want to balance it out, you do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, so for me, as an orthodox fighter, it makes more sense for me to use that lead left in order to keep my opponent at a distance. Right? If this is my opponent here, I'm just moving around them, right? Maybe I'm changing the position of the jab. So again, just going through that motion, 5, step into it, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and again, so much of that power is driven from your core, from your body, because again, your whole body acts as the gun, right, firing the bullet that are your hands or your feet, right? If you're a kickboxer. It's my chance to hop on over here, see if there's anything new in the chat. I don't think so. I don't see anything new in the chat. I see a fist bump, explosion. I see a dabbing. I see a yes. Bumblebee, thank you for continuing to engage with me here. Your engagement, right, really gives me just more encouragement to keep doing this. And the same goes for all of you who tune in, who check in either the VODs, that's the recordings, the videos on demand, or are watching live right now. Notice I appreciate you. Okay, but again, it's even just talking, like I haven't been doing a whole lot of exercise, but make sure to hydrate. Another good thing to do when you're taking little breaks is some other kind of exercise, right? And again, it's hard to kind of envision that, like, you're already tired from talking and coaching and throwing jabs, and now you're going over to do burpees, then you're going over to do push-ups. It's a bit of a hard sell, but as you get more fit, as I get back into shape as well, right? Like I haven't been exercising consistently for quite some time, so I'm getting a little bit winded just doing jabs and chatting with you at home. But as you get more into it, vary up your exercises. If I'll show you more gear as we go, but different ways in which you can really kind of maximize your workouts. Okay, I think it's easy for us to get into this routine thinking that our workouts need to be 3 hours long because it takes us an hour to get to the gym or get set up, work out and shower and then come home. But maybe your workouts can fit within a lunch hour, right? Can fit within a lunch break, and all it comes down to is just moving a little bit more, which is why I genuinely believe that sweating is fat crying. Okay, so anyway, let's gear up. Let's add a little bit more to what we were just working on. Again, we've got our jabs, right? And again, whether you're right foot forward, okay, try to get into the habit of stepping into it before you reset. Okay, protect yourself. Like after you've jabbed, bring your hand back and protect yourself before you launch again, unless your whole idea is to throw a double jab. Okay, but even then, try to extend fully. And one of the worst things you can do is to just kind of do this half-cocked jab. Like that's not going to be a whole lot of damage. Plus, you've lost all this extra distance. Right? So if the whole idea of the jab is to keep your opponent at a distance, you're like, oh, what are they going to do? Snap, right? Let's keep them tame. Let's keep things under control. And you're just moving around your target. And that's the habit you want to be getting into. Maybe later on, I think my wife's got a point with using the flow, right? Being the track where the subject is moving to. Maybe that's something where I should really look into. Anyway, going back to the jab, okay, keep the distance away. Same thing over here. Orthodox fighters, left foot forward, use the jab. There you go. Move around a little bit. Give my back to the camera there. But again, get into the habit of changing your center line. If you look at your target, and it's right here, right? That's my line. I want to be able to move my head outside of that line while throwing the jab. Or after I throw this, maybe I'm moving to the other side so that I can follow up with more damage. Okay, and I think another good thing for a lot of beginner boxers, a lot of folks who are just getting to striking, to think about is combos. And combos, just like a fighting game, it's not just about mashing buttons and hoping for the best, because you just keep hitting jab, and this is all you're doing. But maybe it's also thinking, okay, after this jab, I'm going to bring it, right? And I'm going to move to a different position so that I can go body and I can go head again, right? So I actually went jab, body hook or body shot, bring it back, head shot, or second hook to the head. And being able to come up with these ideas, because fundamentally there are only so many punches available to you, right? So being able to come up with new ideas or new combos is what really throws your opponent off. I think the best way to describe combat sports or striking sports like this is it's violent dance chess. Like you have to think about what's going on, you have to think about what your opponent's going to do next, but you also have to kind of outdance, outplay, right, your opponent. Anyway, let's slap some gloves on. Let's build on this. Okay, so I'm using here these 12-ounce gloves. And this is your generic, Everlast order off Amazon glove. And so hopefully that's in the frame there. And I think for folks who are just starting out, you don't need anything really like intensive, and you need to be spending hundreds of dollars on a pair of gloves. And even for myself, like as someone who has boxed a little bit longer, as long as the gear, right, holds up, as long as it protects my hands, and in the case of these wraps protect me. These gloves, in many ways, is out of respect for my opponent. Right, so you'll notice that these boxing gloves here are 12 ounces. There are gloves that come bigger, like 16-ounce gloves, 14-ounce gloves. Those are pretty popular. But you've also got these 8-ounce, 4-ounce gloves, especially in MMA. And that's usually a consequence of not wanting to provide as much padding, not wanting to provide as much necessarily respect, but you want to be doing more damage. That's the whole vision, right? The vision is to be doing more damage to your opponent when there's less padding in the gloves. And then you're like, why don't you just put on the gloves just to take them all off? Remember, I've got that bracelet that doesn't come off. It is in the way, and there we go. You never want things to be in the way, or you never want your pants to fall off on stream either. That'd be mucho embarrassing. But ultimately, you want to be comfortable when you're doing this stuff. Otherwise, it's kind of an upwards battle. Right? Again, nothing slows you down more than injury. But again, if you are getting into that habit of just throwing jabs, right? Jab, 3, 4, 5, right? If you're just throwing jabs on the right, again, go slow first, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step into it, right? Sometimes folks are thinking, oh, like, is this just going to be like a snap and a pullback? That's generally the way that I like to throw my jabs. There are some schools of thought where you kind of push through your opponent, think of them as a tree that you chop. I think of that as more of like a rotational move. Whenever you're thinking of chopping, right? Like chopping the leg, for example, in kickboxing, you're throwing your leg like an axe. That kind of motion, that kind of hook, that's where the chopping should be coming from. So when it comes to jabs, again, it should be snappy. It should create distance between you and your opponent, and it should create a safe space for you to return to. So again, move around a little bit, right? And footwork's key. I wish I could demonstrate this with the camera, but your feet should never crisscross, right? If your feet are moving, just imagine like a rubber band that joins the feet together. Right? So left foot should never cross over. Similarly, right foot never crosses over. All right, right foot, then left foot. All right, if I'm going up, right foot follows. Then maybe it's going to be left foot that goes down. That allows me to go body, right? That sort of thing. And again, move around your target a little bit, and that's your jab. Okay, full extension. Your cross, on the other hand, is basically the more powerful jab, right? Because for left, sorry, my excuse, my bad. But if for a right-handed person, my right-handed punch, my right hand straight, is going to be my cross. For a left-handed person who leads with their right foot, your left straight will be your cross. Okay, so one more time. Let's run through that. Orthodox fighters. I think there are more orthodox than there are southpaw, but that's just maybe a sweeping generalization. But left foot forward, again, left hand forward, that's your jab. Your right straight punch, that's going to be your cross. Orthodox. Left jab, right cross. Southpaw fighters. Right foot's forward, right jab, left cross. One more time. Right jab, left cross. Now you'll notice after I throw that jab, I always want to bring the hand back to protect my head. And no matter what I do next, always protect yourself at all times. Take a quick moment. Let's check in on the chat, see how things are going there. Build more on this combo. All right, see how we're doing. Let's go, John. What's going on? I want my fat to cry too. You know what? That's the whole point of this. I thought, I've coached boxing, I've coached martial arts before. Why don't I just continue to take the classroom, right, from the school environment, from the four walls of the building, and again, our hearts and very much attached to those places, but expand it to a more global kind of setting. That'd be really cool. Anyway, so now that I know we've got some folks who have a little training here who are also watching, Bumblebee. Not that you don't have training. I'm sure you have some training as well. But let's start to elevate it, start to come up with some new ideas, okay? And maybe the whole concept here is if everyone watching can take some ideas away from our time together, then that's time well spent. Okay, so again, orthodox, left foot forward. That's my jab. That's my one. Cross, right foot. Sorry, right hand. Okay, and again, what you can't see right now in frame, I think, is the twisting of the torso and the pivoting of the back foot. Okay, so I'm taking a micro step, I'm taking a small step forward, even with my right foot, as I launch that right punch. Again, every punch corresponds to a step, right? There's some kind of foot movement that accompanies the hand movement, and that's good for positioning. Okay, so again, left foot, left hand, step, right foot, right hand, small step. Okay, and again, going from that into the jab cross. Okay, and working your way up to it. It could be very gentle at first. It could be jab, cross. That's it. Jab, cross. Maybe it's a little uncoordinated. You're like, jab, and I've kind of lost it. I don't know where that cross lands. I can't quite hit it. Or you hit prematurely. Or you get down to a science where you're like, right, you anticipate when it's coming back at you so that you can snap it, all right, and move out of the way in anticipation for the next thing. And hopefully be able to replicate that on both sides. Okay? Jab, cross, moving around a little bit. Right, shoulder movement key, head movement key. Maybe it's going to be a jab, 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 cross. All right, waiting for that, right? That left to come over in order to connect. Again, practicing. Jab, maybe your jab, your second one is off a little bit in order to land that right cross. Okay, maybe this is a feint. Okay, this left hand here is just distraction, distraction in order to land that cross. And that's got an all overhead kind of component to it, a lot more power, also a lot more risk, because if you overcommit on this and you miss, this is all exposed. Right now, that's all open to a counterattack, depending on which discipline you're competing in. All right, let's take a moment, check le chat, get some more ideas going. I gotta find a more optimal system. Life is balance. That's right, sir. Fried chicken and boxing. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. All right, so I'll probably also end up having. We had Korean fried chicken for dinner last night. Oh God, that place has earned many a paycheck. But yeah, so far so good, right? For folks who are just joining us, we've reviewed a little bit the classic hand wrap, right, versus the newer, I guess, lazier hand wrap here. I'm actually going to pair these off. I don't want to get these yellow ones all sweaty and gross. Plus, I find that my bracelet fits actually a little bit better in this pink one here. Originally purchased from my wife, BT Dubs. We got to get her back in the gym here with me. I know we've both been lifing, and lifing is good. Right? When you're lifing is good. But for my wife and I, this is kind of like our wedding band. Right? It's not meant to come off. Then the question is, how do you get it on? There's a technique. It involves wearing a surgical glove and lubrication, I guess, and they just kind of slide it on. I think the day that you make that bracelet is like that's the day that you're meant to keep it on. Yeah, there you go. I think this is just the way that the material wraps, right? But it's a lot more comfortable being able to push this to the front. So again, for any of you who have non-removable jewelry, a nice little consideration or an important consideration is where does that stuff go, especially when the equipment is meant to protect your wrist, right? Like the whole idea of these wraps, yes, there's padding here, that's important, but this wrist part is even more important because you never want to, hit someone, I guess as you can see this way, and instead of hitting this way, hit this way, right? All that pressure that goes into your wrist right there, that's the damage you could potentially be taking. every time you go in for the hook. And that's actually where our next lesson is going to take us. And so how do we transition from this jab cross kind of setup, this 1-2, to now being able to kind of step into it and rotate with that hook? And again, it's very important, right, I'm just going to rotate upwards, that your wrist not be bent in any of these directions. Otherwise, you're due for a lot of pain. So an important thing to keep in mind, right? Just positioning, like any form of exercise, form really does matter. And there's truly no greater hindrance to progress than injury. Right? You're going to lose so much time, so much progress by getting hurt. All right, so let's think in terms of 2 hit combos for now. Okay, let's keep it simple. If our first combo was 1-2, jab cross. Okay, and again, get into that habit, really exaggerate when you're starting out. Step in, jab, step in, cross, 1-2. Okay, really focus and hit that same spot. Or keep yourself guessing. Okay, I'm going to be hitting head, body, or I'm going to go body, head. But again, nice and fluid. 1-2. Okay, all the things you're keeping in mind. And it feels like a lot, especially when you're starting out, but your left foot steps forward along with your left hand. Okay? As your left hand retracts back to your head, that's when the back right foot makes a small step forward, while simultaneously your right hand does the same, launches forward. Your left hand now protects your head. Okay, so one more time. Jab cross. Move, reposition, bring those hands back, protect yourself. Let's look at it from the point of view of reviewing the 1-2 from the southpaw's perspective. Okay, right foot forward, right hand forward. 1-2. As the right foot forward comes forward, the right hand makes contact. As the right hand retracts, the back left foot makes a small step forward while the left hand simultaneously comes forward with it. The right hand is back now, protecting the head. Reset. Okay, so again, seeing this in a little bit more fluid. 1-2. All right, and then the hands stay close to the head. Right, the shoulders, the hands, protecting what matters most, your brain. Your brain is you. Okay, so that's 1-2. Now let's look at 2-3. Got back to orthodox. If this is 2, right? So again, this is my cross. I need to be within range. So I have to step in a little bit. This is where my left knee allows me to pivot in, close the gap, and I'm going for the head, the same relative position, but instead of from the front, I'm now coming in from the side. And that's what makes this different, right? The hooks are at an angle. Let's see this from this angle here. It's much tighter, right? So if my cross goes straight, right, into the line of the target, my hook now comes from the side, hence hook, right? You notice that 90-degree bend. Sometimes it's a little more out. If it's out, usually your thumb finds its way down. For example, you're reaching, right? And you're trying to get someone further away. That kind of hook has your thumb down versus your thumb's usually up if your target is closer to you, right? So the target's right here. I'm just going body, right? And working my way up from the body, right, back to the head. Normally, right, what I'd be doing is keeping my thumb up and contort or twisting my core in order to generate power each time. Right? If after my first hook, I don't return back to a neutral position where I can generate more power, how can I possibly just use my shoulder and keep doing this and still be able to hurt my target? The whole idea of, I guess, striking or combat sports is to deliver a blow such that your opponent cannot respond. Right, and out of respect for the opponent, of course, but you're both trying to do that to each other. So that's where the inherent risk of combat sports comes from, right? You want to make the other person tap out. You want to make the other person go to sleep. So it's not a, we're here just to high five each other kind of sport. It is a thinking person's sport that involves violent advanced chess. Okay, so let's think of our setup. Again, orthodox. Okay, our 2 may or may not have landed. I want to be leading in a little bit, right? Left knee, that's going to be a head right now. My right foot is a little up, right? So because my right foot's a little bit up from this cross, I should be able to take a small step forward with my left such that I could replant and land my hook. So from here, right, we're going for that same position. Just go slow. We're going for a 2, connecting to a 3. Right? 2, 3. That's what we're going for. That hook, that power, that drive, all comes from your core. As you twist down, generate, right, potential energy, come back up, transfer that into kinetic. And that's the whole idea here, is being able to build up. Same thing if I were to go to the other side, right? Build up that potential, and then release that energy through the hook, through the punch, into the target. Okay, so again, let's review this. 2, 3. Okay, let's go slow. 2, 3. Let's do 5 of these. All right, 2, 3. 2, 3. Go slow. There you go. And again, let's vary it up a little bit. All right. What was I doing? So this is going to be a 2, 3. There you go. 2, 3. 2. Go slow. Take your time. Okay. You don't want to hurt yourself. Focus on your form first until you no longer have to be thinking about your form. Let's take a moment. Let's check on chat. We're still going. We're going strong. I like it. Live chat. The power of the hook. Yes. Yes. So I actually prefer the long wraps, the purist in me, but more and more now, as I get older, John, I'm just enjoying things that like work out of the box. Even when it comes to computers and setup, like when I was in my teens and 20s, I was like, hey, let's build the coolest like custom gaming computer. Let's just throw all the RAM into it, see what happens, whatever money could buy or whatever I could afford at the time. Now it's like I just want to work. Like, yeah, it's cool to tinker. Yeah, it's cool to juice and min-max everything. But it's even better to just like take it out of the box. It works, and then you've got all your time to do other fun things. And I think that's age. That's age talking. But here, let's review. Let's add our 2 3s together. And I think after that, we're going to introduce our last set of punches, right? So we've got our uppercuts, and you're set, right? You've got 6 punches. That's all you need. Right? You got 2 straights. You got 4 hooks. Right? 2 of those hooks go, laterally, sideways, angular, and then 2 of those hooks go up. And those are your uppercuts. And from here on out, you've got your first lesson in, Dadbod fitness in combat sports, and you're all on your way. There you go, to being a professional fighter, which I never was. Okay, let's get that piece of lore out of the way. I was never a professional fighter. I do enjoy it though. I'm an enjoyer of the sport. That's really it. I'm an enjoyer of the sport. And at some point, right, whatever it is that you enjoy, you will find yourself looking at the examples of greatness within that world. Maybe it's boxing, right? Maybe it's sculpting. Okay? Maybe it's something that has it's culinary arts. Maybe it has nothing to do with any of those examples that I gave you, but you care about it because you spend so much time, compared to the other people in your immediate space. So just by virtue of spending that time, you are already more of an expert than like the rest of the world, right? And that's really cool. But anyway, as you continue to dive more into this stuff and continue to dig more into the world of combat sports, no doubt you will find some folks that you want to follow, that you want to learn from their content. And if I happen to be that person, cool. If I'm not that person, that's all right as well. At least we gave this the good old try here in the world of what the pivot. Okay, so again, let's clumsily work our way here from our 2 3. So that's going to be our cross to our hook, right? So again, our cross hook, and again you can bring this down. You can go cross, hook to the body. Right, so again, nothing wrong with going. So I'm going to go jab, and I'm just pawing away. Right, all of this was to go, right? Jab, cross, Maybe this is still minimal damage, but it was this shovel hook, almost like an uppercut, right, to the body. Maybe that's the liver shot that's going to bring down the opponent. And this area right here, very, very dangerous, right? Because, and you can just YouTube this, but liver shots send mixed signals to the body. And it always ends the same. It always ends with the person saying, yeah, we're done here. Okay, so again, let's run through this exactly the same thing from a southpaw stance. Okay, southpaw stance, if you're just tuning in, right foot forward, right hand is your jab. Okay, think of this as the, I don't know, the McGregor. Okay, think of it as this, right? And again, always pawing away, using this to set up the cross. Again, this is straight punch. Okay, this is the cross for a southpaw person because their left hand is their strong hand. Okay, so here we go. That's the setup, and that allows me to lean in just enough as my hand retracts, where my left hand that is, for my right hand to land its hook. So again, let's run through this. Again, all of this is set up for the 2-3. Okay, for that 2-3, waiting for that 2-3. That's what we're going for there. Same thing, if we're orthodox, we're setting up for that 2-3. Okay? For that 2-3, for that 2-3. We're always trying to balance it out, generate some power, and all that power comes from your core. It doesn't come from swinging your arms. It comes from twisting your core. Because so much of that power comes from your legs, through to your core, up through your back, your shoulders, as you rotate to land that hook. Okay, let's round this off. I think we're going to call this a day because I've also got some fried chicken waiting for me there. So your last two punches, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, uppercut, 6, and that's it. Okay, now I'm looking right at the camera there, but generally you want to be looking at your target. So you got 1, 2. These are straight punches. 1, 2. Let's change it up. Southpaw stance. 1, 2. 1, 2. Can't see the footwork, but stepping in, twisting. 1, 2. Bringing those hands back. Let's look at 3, 4. 3, 4. Okay. 3, 4. Maybe easier to visualize from this side over here. 3, 4. Hooks. Last but not least, we've got our uppercuts. 5. And again, our uppercut, we're digging into our opponent while still looking at them. We want to maintain eye contact at all times with the person that we're fighting. A common misconception, a common mistake is kind of like driving for the first time. As you look to the left, your hands naturally want to steer to the left as well. And it's the same thing here. If you're throwing this right, a lot of beginners tend to look away because they're doing this Ryu uppercut. But if you're going uppercut, maintain an eye contact such that you can continue to close the gap even if that uppercut misses. Okay, so again, looking for that 5, reconnecting back to that 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so again, your 5 and your 6 are going to be uppercuts. Your 3 and your 4 are going to be hooks. Your 1 and your 2 are going to be your straights. And just like that, like your 6 punches, infinite number of possibilities. Like, I don't know, let's just come up with ones, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? 2, 3, 2. 2, 3, 2. 1, 2, double slip. 4, 3. 1, 2, double slip. 4, 3. Right? Think about like different ways in which you can keep building that variety, keep your opponent guessing, and as much as it's rhythmic because it's violent dance chess, you're also trying to throw your opponent off their rhythm too, because it's very likely they also learned 1, 2 is their jabs and crosses. And maybe the approach should be 5, 6. Let's just start there. Okay, or 8, 9 are jabs and crosses, and that's really going to mess with our opponent, especially if coach starts yelling at different numbers. Anyway, let's take a look over here at chat. I think this is a nice little spot. These 40-minute streams to pack things up for the day. As always, I appreciate y'all tuning in. It's the power of the hook. That's right. Okay, so I think this is 45 minutes. I think this is a good spot to finish up for the day here. Let's quickly review. Okay, but for folks who are trying combat sports or striking for the very first time, I think the most important thing to keep in mind is setting a realistic expectation. Um, as you're learning this stuff, you kind of start to feel empowered, and you're like, I can take on the world, I can fight anyone. Stay humble, okay? Stay humble. But whatever it is that you're learning, and whoever it is you're learning it from, make sure you are putting your safety as number one, number uno, and that starts with being prepared. Okay, that starts with having water, your towel, stay hydrated. That starts with having the right equipment, removing any loose jewelry beforehand. And again, just to go over the possibilities, what's available. We've got these gloves that come with the padding all built in. We've also got these wraps, a little bit more do-it-yourself DIY. Okay, so we've got different options to choose from. Some folks are like, just I don't know, like toughen up. You don't need wraps for this. Sure, okay, if that's legit the advice you want to take, but just know that the whole purpose is to protect your wrists. Okay, with the wraps, they stabilize your wrists. Okay, because the last thing you want is to hit something, make contact with it, and then your wrist to kind of buckle out, right? And right, that's not the way to progress. But so we've got these over here when it comes to gloves. Okay, later on we're going to move into other bits of striking too, knees and elbows. But when it comes to gloves, think of this as respect for your opponent. Okay, usually the more ounces, the more weight, or I should say, the more mass there is to this stuff, the more you'll start to feel it in your shoulders. Okay, in your traps, because you got to keep these gloves up at all times. Right, the whole idea of combat sports or striking sports, I should say, right? Jits, it's a little bit different, but you want your hands to be up, right? Protecting yourself. And like it isn't to just like do this or like just dome up, but you want to be able to still see your opponent as you're navigating like their line. And so as I'm just kind of punching at the camera here, right? So if this is my jab, my head should not be here. That doesn't make any sense. My head should be off to the side. Similarly, once this comes back and I throw my cross, again, same idea. My head isn't here. My head's off that center line, right? So that if I were to close in, commit on this, and finish up with the hook again, like that's the as this hand comes back, you're like, oh, it's got to be this hand again. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just the right a second time. Okay, so again, going back to those numbers, nothing wrong with going 1, 2, 3, or even going 1, 1, 2, or even going 2, 3, 2, or going 2, 3, 3, right? Because you just want to make sure that one of those two hooks landed. Okay, so I think that's the basics. You've got 2 straight punches, you've got 4 angular hooked punches, and the rest of it is just developing enough kind of fluidity, enough movement right, in the rest of your body so as to not give away what's coming. And those tricks even come from things like making sure that there's no chicken wings, or your elbows can be great tells. Like if I were to do this, right, you know that the left hand's coming just by watching the left elbow. And you know this now because I'm telling you to look for it, but the more flared they are, right, the easier it is to tell. Whereas if the hands were much closer, right, now it's like, which hand is it? Maybe it's going to be a 1, 2, right? And again, this is getting into that more kind of, peekaboo, Mike Tyson type movement. Anyway, don't bring up Mike Tyson. Breaks my heart. Folks, I think this is it. I think this is a nice spot to pack things up for the day. Any questions? I'm gonna check the chat. I am going to enjoy the chicken, sir. You know it. And Bumblebee, I also hope you enjoy your chicken. And anyone else watching at home, there you go, folks. Until next time, thanks for joining me with this new little kind of venture. We're going to do some boxing together, maybe later on. And I guess I'll just kind of give you a quick tour of the facilities here. Oh God, kicking stuff. That's not good. But I think if I do this, now it's a mobile streaming station. Hey, but this is my workout space. But we've got a little basket of goodies in here. I've never quite figured out how this thing works. It's kind of like a weird hula hoop with a ball. So I have to ask my wife. I got some dip bars. We got some bands. When it comes to, I guess, Mr. Say lore, there you go. That's my old comp stuff. And there you go. That's what my gym looks like. Simple. And then there are a few things there that need to go for spring cleaning and such. Okay, so there you have it. Folks, as always, thanks for working out. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you again soon. Till next time, folks, be kind.